All right, so today we're gonna scale the overhead squat, but we're gonna do a more difficult version of this. We're gonna do the dumbbell overhead squat. It's gonna require a lot more mobility and stability. So Katie is a ninja. She's gonna demonstrate what the movement looks like for us. Dumbbell goes overhead, does the full movement, and you can relax, okay? A couple things to point out. I'm gonna have her do this with just her hand overhead instead of the dumbbell. So let's get that arm up overhead and go down into that squat. Okay. With this position, we want to make sure that the hips are going back, the weight is still in the midfoot, the heels are down, the knees are out over the toes, and she wants this dumbbell to be resting over the back of her head. A lot of people, when they do this movement, they let the dumbbell come way out in front because they lack flexibility. All right, so a couple things to point out on what we don't want to see. So if Katie just shows us a basic air squat real quick, all right? When she starts this, her hips go back and down, and she makes sure that that weight stays centered. You can stand up. Now when we add the element of an arm overhead, a lot of people tend to be tight in their upper back. So in order to compensate and keep the arm in a good position, people will then forget about the hips going back and down, and they'll go straight down, pushing the knees way forward and eventually landing on the toes. We do not want to see this. This will destroy your knees. So you can go ahead and stand up. Let's see one more good rep now. Arm goes overhead, hips come back and down, keeping the integrity of the squat. So if we fix that fault and now we keep Katie back and down, keeping the weight back and the heels staying down, a lot of people will then lose the ability to keep the hand in a good position overhead. So if we fix it, we often see this. So the squat looks good, but now the dumbbell falls forward, and now we're putting a lot of excessive stress on that shoulder. You can stand up, which we don't want to see. So we can scale this movement by adding in the box to make it still difficult, but a little bit safer. So if you lack the mobility or the balance to be able to do this on air, what you can do is you can grab a box and you can practice this really slow and controlled. She's gonna put that dumbbell into a good overhead position, and when we say that, we wanna make sure that the hand is straight even with the shoulder and the rest of her body. She's gonna sit all the way back to that box now, keeping that dumbbell in a good position and then standing up nice and tall. Good. Something we see whenever we scale to a box squat, people get a little excited to rush the reps because it is a little bit slower. So they'll go straight down and drive the knees forward, touch and stand right back up. That's not what we want to see. We want to see the hips sit back all the way and then stand straight up, keeping that dumbbell in a good position. All right, so a helpful tip for you guys that lack a little bit of flexibility. Katie is very flexible, so she can keep her shoulders pretty square when she squats. I have a little bit more trouble with this movement. Most people do. Something that will help when you get that dumbbell overhead is you can start to rotate a little bit to that arm that is up and then start your squat. And when you do that, it opens up and frees up a little bit of the flexibility that you have in your shoulder and in your upper back. So that's something that you can try if you're kind of on the borderline of having a movement. So if you try out these different scaling options and none of it seems to work, or if your form starts to break down, something that you should do is practice this at a low intensity, not in a Metcon. So don't just practice this, and if it's kind of okay, just jump into a hard conditioning workout. That's a recipe for disaster. If you are going to try this in a Metcon, which we are doing on Friday, we encourage you to scale to a safer movement that you don't need as much mobility for. So she's going to do a dumbbell thruster. Dumbbell's going to rest on the shoulder. She's going to go ahead and do a regular squat and then finish with an overhead press. She can do another rep and relax. Good. So this is a good movement because we're still drilling the squat and we're still finishing in the same overhead position, but we aren't requiring as much balance and stability throughout the movement. So practice this movement on its own. If it feels a little funky or if you're feeling any pain, it probably is a sign that you should scale to a safer movement. Continue to develop the flexibility, and then once you have it, test it out in a workout.